Alright guys, let's first of all talk about how fantastic this lighting is, right? There's not a lot of light in this room, let me just tell you. Alright, dog. Still dog sitting, and she's right next to me. Anyways, I was reminded of a story today of something that happened while I was in France, and I had to share it because it's one of my favorite stories. It's one of those travel stories that you're always gonna have, and it's one of my favorite ones. And I wanted to document it. I mean I wrote about it. Every time I take a trip, I keep a travel journal just of stories like this, and so I remember what I did, especially for when I go back and make scrapbooks or print out all of my pictures and everything. The fact that I just made my scrapbook from my study abroad trip in 2014. Yeah, I just finished that today. But so I always write stuff down so that I have a journal of everything. That way I can go back and be okay, this happened today, or this was something funny that happened, all sorts of things like that. So I wrote about it in my journal, but this is it's one of those stories that I got reminded of today, and I wanted to share it because it's one of my favorites. Okay, so if you're at all familiar with the TAPIF program, or if you participated or whatever, that's the teaching assistant program in France. Wow. My memory is not very good. But so that's why I went to France. So if you're familiar with that program, or even if you're not, I'll tell you, everyone does this orientation training type day at the beginning. And it's just a day where all of the assistants who are in one region get together, and they go over all the administrative stuff, and then you have lunch together. And then in the second half, or at least this is the way mine worked, in the second half they had teachers from the different languages come and just give different tips on activities to do with the students, or different ways to go about teaching. How do you do it, just because I mean most of us had just graduated school, or we don't really have a lot of teaching experience to begin with, so it was just really nice to have a teacher come in. But so everyone meets up in an assigned city, and even though you're part of this region, you might not live near the city. So in my case, I was in a city called Gare, which is about 40 minutes outside of Rennes, which is where I would leave from because that's where the nearest train station is. And we had to go to Vannes, which is, I think it was an hour train ride, maybe an hour drive, I don't know. But so orientation started at 8 or 9 or something like that. So it wasn't super early, but we had to take one of the first trains to get there. And so me and the Spanish assistant were going to meet on the train, so that we could get there together, because neither of us knew where we were going or what we were doing or anything. So we get to the train station. My contact teacher lives in Rennes, and so I always stayed with her, and she has a car. So she drove me to the train station that morning and missed my train because lovely American cards and trying to print out tickets and whole big mess. Missed my train. My contact teacher was the sweetest person in the world. She drove me all the way to Vannes, which is she spent at least 2 hours in the car there and back. I mean, it was crazy. So she drove me there. So I finally get there. I'm the last person there. I'm late, whatever. So, long story short, after the training, I have no idea where the train station is because I wasn't there in the morning. Not only that, I have no idea what bus I'm supposed to take in order to get to the train station. And I have no idea where this bus is either. So I had Googled it and thought I knew which bus I needed, and I thought I knew where the stop was. And so our training ended at 5, and our train was at 5:30. When I say our, I mean me and the Spanish assistant. Problem is, we were in 2 different groups because we spoke 2 different languages during the last part where we did activities and things. So we did not see each other afterwards. So she did take the train and knew where she was going. I didn't. My original plan was that I was going to leave like 15 minutes early so that I had plenty of time to make it to the train station. Long story short, I didn't. So 5 o'clock rolls around, I run out the door trying to, because I gotta make this train. Looking everywhere I thought I knew where the bus was, wasn't anywhere around. Had no idea. So I start walking, tried to pick a direction, wasn't going so well. So I walk maybe a block or two, maybe 3 blocks if that, and there's like this little supermarket store on the corner, and I'm like, okay, I'm like mentally preparing myself because I'm like, okay, I'm lost, don't know where I'm going, need to get there. I'm like trying to prepare my conversation in my head just so I have like some idea of what the heck I'm gonna do. So I'm like mentally preparing myself, and as I'm like preparing myself to go in there, I'm also like looking for people outside of the store so that I don't have to like go in and cause a scene. So as I'm like trying to prepare myself, this lady pulls up, this older lady, like very grandma type old lady. She pulls up in a car, and so I'm like, okay, I think I can handle talking to her because I hate talking to strangers. So I like walk up to her, and like I probably looked terrified, which is probably the only reason she talked to me, because I like maybe a foot taller than her. I'm like towering over this sweet little old lady, and I'm like, excuse me, do you know where the train station is? And she's like, or no, I asked which bus I need to take. She's like, no, I'm sorry. And I'm like, oh, that's okay, I have a train that I really need to catch. And she's like, well, what time is your train? And I was like, 5:30. And she's like, she looks at her watch, by this time it's 5:15. She's like, oh my goodness, like we have to go, come on, get in. And she like throws open her car door, moves the stuff off the front seat, and throws it in the back. And I'm like, all right, I didn't even think about it. And in hindsight, like, who gets into a car with a strange person in a foreign country where you're like barely able to like focus on speaking the correct language because you're so like out of it, and just, I don't even know. So I hop in her car. She runs around to the driver's side, hops in the car. She like tears out of the store parking lot, and she drove me all the way to the train station. And like I get in, and I'm like looking around her car, like she's got like this picture of Jesus on the dashboard, and she's got like her rosary hanging from, you know, the rear view mirror, and she's got this gorgeous music playing, and it just like, it sounds like angels. And like I could not have picked a better person to like, a better stranger to like get in a car with. Like clearly God up there was watching over me. Like, so she drove me all the way there, sweetest old lady. Like I have no idea what her name is, she doesn't know my name, never gonna see each other again, but she drove me all the way to the train station, got me there on time. She was like we got stuck in traffic, and so she's like taking these side streets to like get me there. She got me there. I said thank you, and she's like, go, like don't even bother saying thank you, just like go get your train, because like I had like 2 minutes to make it. So I like run out trying to find which platform my train is on. Can't find that. Turns out my stop is like one of the first ones, not the last one. So I'm like trying to search for like the train number, and it was a whole mess. Find it, run to the platform. The train's already there. It leaves in like 2 seconds. I hop on the train, and I made it. I'm like sweating, like, and of course this is like the time where I get stuck in like one of those 4-seaters where there's like 2 on each side, and you're like facing each other, and there's already 3 people there. So I'm like running in, I'm like sweating, like breathing heavy, like, oh my God, I almost missed this train. And it was just, it was an ordeal. But like I told my family that story that night, and like it was just like the funniest thing ever. Like it's one of those travel stories that like I'm so happy that I have. Kind of like thinking about it, I'm like, I really probably shouldn't have that travel story, because like I said, getting into a car with a stranger in a foreign country, and like could have ended real bad. But she was like the sweetest person ever, and just like, it was just one of those moments you just like, you needed someone to like show you the good in life or whatever at that time. Like it's like, okay, I've been in this country for, you know, 2, maybe 3 weeks. I don't remember how long I had been there yet, but it was like probably 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, I'm struggling. Like we just had our first week. I must have been there for 2 weeks, because I think it was like the first week of classes. I don't know. But I was like, you know, we just had our first week or two of classes. Like, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to do in class. Like, I was all over the place. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, I just need some good in my life. And she came around and I'm like so happy. But I don't know what reminded me of that story today. It was just like one of those things that like popped into my head today, and I was like, gotta just do it, why not? So yeah, that was one of my first experiences in France this time around anyways. So yeah, I just wanted to document that for myself because it was just like so out there. I don't know. Alright, dog, stop. I brought my scrapbook to work on here, and it's in a box, and the dog is like, ooh, what's in this box? But yeah, so that's the story I had to share today. Yeah, watching The Princess Diaries, because why not? It's on. So, alright, that's all. Catch you later.